welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show. You know that the current conversation in Nigeria, at least in the past 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, has been a change of chief of service chiefs, and there's a current expectation that there will also be a change in the leadership of the Nigeria Police Force. As a matter of truth, maybe before this program is broadcast, such a change may have occurred, because some people are saying the current Inspector General of Police, his date of exit from the force is 1st of February. But as of today that we are recording this program, he is still in charge. So the conversation has been, who will be the next person? There have been arguments about the geography of the next Inspector General of Police. On the conversation this Sunday, we're not going to take it from who is going to be the next Inspector General of Police. Rather, we are going to take it from how do we strengthen the police institution to make it, first, redeem its responsibility as enshrined in the 1999 Constitution as amended. 2, the expectations of the citizens. 3, which is purely an opinion, retrieving itself from the backwaters which it occupies today in the Nigerian security architecture. And I have 2 gentlemen who are thoroughly qualified in both knowledge and experience to discuss this matter. On my right, which is going to be the left of your screen, is retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Dr. Charles Ugomuoh. Dr. Ugomuoh, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
I will, in the course of this conversation, also tell you the other caps he wears. On my left is Professor Godwin Owoh. Now, let me make a little bit of a lengthy introduction. Professor Owoh was a senior advisor in Nigeria Central Bank, but he has very extensive exposure and knowledge in matters of security economy, both within the police and outside of it, and some other security institutions. Professor Owoh, you are welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
AIG Ugomuoh, I'm going to start with you, because the Igbos have a saying that anybody who wants to ask about the ground, the inside of the earth, should please ask the rabbit. It's a tough, you know well. Do you think that the Nigerian police as it is today, as it's operating today, is operating optimally, expected of it from the citizens, and expected of it from the security challenges we are facing?
Well, thank you. I have to start by commending the Mr. President for changing the service chiefs. I've been an advocate of you wear the big stick when it matters most. But be that as it may, it can never be late. And the new service chiefs were going to come into office with a new vigor. New broom sweeps clean. The Nigerian police force, as you rightly said, they are performing. But whether they are performing optimally is another ball game. And this is from the expectations of the Nigerian populace. Nigerian populace has been so militarized. The society has been so militarized that all expectations is now geared towards the military. In as much as the Nigerian police force should be the lead internal security agency of this country. And that's what we've been saying, that the dignity of the Nigerian police force has to be restored. In a situation you have let me say, infractions within the community, you invite the army. You have an army quarrel with somebody, and then army goes for revenge. all over the place. It doesn't go well for internal security arrangement of the Nigerian police force. But be that as it may, like you rightly said, or you may have observed, when the Nigerian police personnel go outside on these peacekeeping missions, you see their level of performance. So what may have been impeding the Nigerian police force may be very obvious. Okay, area of funding, area of personnel training, institutional decisions, and well, let me say the willpower to advance the Nigerian police force.
AIG, I'm going to take off from that will. Prof, why I'm taking off from that will is the history of Nigeria Police Force. I want to recall where there was a will. Between November 1965 and January, in fact, October 1965 and January 1966, when this country experienced its first coup, the Nigeria police had the competence and the capacity and the equipment to keep a tab on the activities of every one of the coupists, to the point that the Nigeria police advised the then Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa in advance that a coup was in the offing, and certain characters were outrightly pointed at. But there was no political will to take a decision to abort that coup, and it happened. Prof, after that coup, if you look at the police, there seemed to have been a consistent and progressive underdevelopment of the police. Was it as a result of a deliberate move by the military authorities, or was it because there were no resources to put the police where it ought to be as the frontliner in internal security?
Exactly. You see, the observation is perfectly in order. But then, dwelling on the fact of what you had observed, that is the continuous decline in the ability of the police to deliver, you will see that that continuous decline is also linked to the length of detachment, perhaps, from the period of colonization, which has to do with a situation where there was serious state of independence in the way the police operated. You see, that word independence is critical. You will note that during the colonial period, the colonialists have no ethnic cleavages, they have no sentiments, they have no other consideration affecting their ability to ensure that the police force they put on ground deliver on its mandate. But then, as independence came, just like in most African countries, because what is happening in Nigeria is not diverse from what is happening in other countries in Africa. Yes, in South Africa, I've watched the growth in South Africa from 1994 to date. The performance of the police there kept going down because of excessive political infiltration, excessive tribal consideration, excessive pecuniary interest in the way the police does its own job. Now, you also see a situation where there were traces and indications that the police itself surrendered its own independence to the political authorities. Because in the example you mentioned, if you look at the foreign missions, I remember a situation in Mauritania where the police chief has to resign because he got an appointment which he was not expecting. He felt that it's not particularly the best at that moment. So when in 1983 he was, I can't immediately remember his exact name, he has to resign. He said no. Not just that he will not take the position, but he will resign. Because he is not a better person to ABC. Can you imagine that happening in Nigeria? The answer is no. So you see a situation where the political institution deliberately destroyed the police. And the police itself gave in to that destruction. Then you now see internal self-destruction within the force itself, which is now creating a lot of disrespect a lot of loss of quality delivery to the consumers of the police service. But the irony or the dilemma of it all is that at the end of the day, the thing comes to stare all of us at the face. So the pre-independence police, the near-independence police, and the decade we are now, you see the situation deteriorating. I'll give you one clear example. The ICPC, EFCC, the road safety, all these formations, they all have departments in the police force. And now the police leadership will be watching that excitement, that cannibalization of the core police duties. When you watch something happen, today, the crime investigation unit, all of the vehicle inspection department and all that, they're all in the police. But you see completely independent agencies pushing their own agenda, fighting with the police, causing serious disrespect with on the police. So those are the three areas that has created, gradually decimated the level of confidence, albeit the ability of the police to now put in the best. So you mentioned their escapade before the coup. You can imagine today, that department that did that job is already a totally different formation outside the police. And if care is not taken, if it continues the way it's going, one day, Nigerians may come up and say, we don't want to police again.
Prof, AIG, I do not think we're looking forward to having the carcass of an institution called the police. Now, Prof mentioned independence. The police does not deploy itself. The military, that is the top dog today, does not deploy itself. It is the political leadership. I'll give you an instance. The Constitution provides circumstances, conditions for bringing out the military. And who can do that? The president has not, to my knowledge, approached the National Assembly to explain why the Nigerian military should now be pursuing bandits, should now be pursuing cultists, should now be pursuing armed robbers. The president has not done that. But soldiers are all over the place, arresting debtors, arresting armed robbers, arresting bandits, and the political leadership has not said, it is not your job, it is the job of the police. Is there any way the police can help itself out of this by declaring its own independence, or is it going to suffer the very burden of lack of political will to put it where it should belong?
Well, it's the dynamics of crime has changed. You are talking about the colonial and the pre-colonial days. You see, right now we have insurgency, we have terrorism, we have banditry, we have herdsmen farmers clashes. These are new dynamics of crime that has spewed up. And in the case of banditry, herdsmen clashes, multiplicity of armed robberies, these are ways insurgents used to raise funds. Okay, the bandits in northeast, northeast and northwest, the military have dislodged the terrorists there somehow to a certain extent, and they have diffused into the larger society. And that's why you see this banditry all over the place in southeast,
parts of the country,
southwest, and all over parts of the country.
Even middle belt is
so the police is now contending with a greater situation than what they were trained for. Okay, we used to have the mobile police officers to quell protest, quell riot, and then they disperse them in the name of nation, of the name of the president. I command you to disperse before action is taken. But this time around, because of the issue of internal security arrangements, where you need to fight the banditry, the terrorists, the insurgents, the herdsmen clashes, the military seems to be all over the place.
Yeah, but I want to interject, if you don't mind. If internal security is clearly defined, responsibility should also be defined. I appreciate and accept that the military should face the insurgents because that's a clear and present danger to the Nigerian state. Some people trying to take over territory, hoist a flag, and declare a caliphate. That is a threat to the existence of Nigeria as a nation. The military is well defined and well equipped and well trained to handle that. But I must wonder if the military is trained to handle the cultist, the armed robber.
What happens is this: if the police is overwhelmed, the military is invited, and there is a procedure for inviting the military.
Are we following that procedure?
That procedure is not being followed. This seems to have changed with the insurgency, with the terrorism that is pervasive. But no matter how pervasive it is, for you to change the system, you must follow due process. Even as much as the commissioner of police will report to the governor of the state that we are being overwhelmed, it is the governor that brings it a memo to the presidency and then approval and then to the National Assembly. But we have a situation where you see local government chairman causing the military. You see the governor causing just everywhere. And there is no real cause of who called the military. And when you ask who called the military, everybody will deny. And the military is all over the place. And the site is highly now militarized. The police goes to arrest a citizen that a culprit. Then he will tell you that the military was there earlier and he resisted the military. Who are you, the police? Okay? But that comes to the issue of this community policing, whereby we want to bring security to the doorsteps.
AIG, I'll come to you on that because
Okay.
that will be addressing some of the solutions to this matter. Prof, I still want to come back to you with the first example I gave. You have had extensive interaction with some of these formations and some of these institutions. To your mind, is the Nigerian police adequately provided for, adequately equipped to meet its constitutional obligations?
Well, exactly. You see, this your question is very apt, and you can see generally the perception is that the police is not well funded. But that perception, why did I use the word perception? There has not been empirical data to show that of a truth that the police is actually underfunded, because we've not seen accurate financial data showing what is required, what is to be achieved, and what was provided.
I must cut in your track because AIG. I remember that in the course of our conversation on this program, or prior to this program, you had hinted at a police proposed budget of about 21 billion naira, and the police getting actually 7 billion naira. Does that proposed budget not give us an insight into how much the police actually needed and how much police actually got? I know why I breathed Prof, because he was going to justify why the police is not getting money. Maybe they have not told us what they are doing with the money.
No, the truth of the matter is that police is seriously underfunded. Seriously underfunded. Like what you are trying to refer to. That was before I retired, 2016. Police made a budget of around 20-something billion, but only 7 billion was released to police. Then how do you operate? But the issue is this: police is still being subjected to this envelope system, whereby what is on the ground is what is released to police, not what police is budgeted for. And a lot of angle of police operation suffers. Area of logistics, area of welfare suffers. So you need to really enhance the funding of the Nigerian police force. A situation whereby you require technology to operate, and then the police cannot acquire such technology due to funding. There was an issue, okay? We brought a demonstration, a presentation to the Inspector General of Police, the current Inspector General of Police, to curb banditry, to curb all this terrorism, to curb kidnapping, okay? Whereby you have these active and passive interceptions, whereby the border control, the borders were segmented, so that you can use a camera in your office and see who is crossing the border in terms of this small arm and infiltration into the country. Okay, you see all these West African countries with their herdsmen and arms infiltrating to curb it. This was demonstrated, and the police applauded it. And it is presented to the Inspector General of Police. Said, he called me, AIG, where do I get the money?
And now, Prof, did you hear that?
Very well.
Are you still on the same track
Yes,
of underfunding?
You know, I was trying to lay a foundation.
Yes.
And in the same, we're on the same page. You see, why I started by trying to confirm really that the data are not, because you see, if the report, the financial report shows those gaps, it will help to make a more qualitative case, backing it up with quantitative evidence. Why do I say so? The budget, the national budget we normally discuss, does not actually reflect the entire budget of the entire country. Because the budget, as you see it, is just the budget of the federal government, which is about 48% of the actual revenue national and expenditure. So we've not aggregated the state expenditures on the police. You see, because by the time you go into a memorandum aggregation of the subnational government's budget, you see the state governments also showing some huge costs which they have incurred on the police, which if you put that together, you see that it is even well and above the national budget, for which maybe 20 or 10% was released. So that was why I was talking of having an aggregate quantitative data, so that we will be sure that even the states are not misplacing certain funds, claiming that they have given it to police. Why it didn't get to police? So when we talk of national budget, we're talking of the 36 states budgets plus FCT, then plus the federal government. But then if you consider only the fraction that came from the federal, you may tend to believe on the face of it that the police is underfunded. That is one. Two, we have also seen a lot of cases of cases of unexplained expenditures. Why am I saying so? Expenditure on police, army, air force, and all that are termed as non-economic expenditure that impede economic growth and development. So countries also watch the amount they put into those sectors. So that's why I was talking of comprehensive, transparent financial reporting from those agencies, so that we can quantitatively make a case. Now, because if you look at is it the allowances, is it the equipment, is it the technology, it's nothing to write home about. But how do we justify that on paper? That's the point we're making. So the first thing the police force and other agencies must do is to ensure accurate, transparent, robust financial reporting. Now, I give you an example. Working with the World Bank and allied institutions, a national chart of account for Nigeria had been developed. But the security forces are not part of it. So how do you do their reporting? How do you ensure a standardized reporting framework that can really show that
But Prof, I have a problem with that. Yeah. Because things of security do not project, they're not projectable.
Exactly.
There are instantaneous developments that will require also immediate reaction to. And those ones are not things I'm going to say, in the next 12 months, our budget that Boko Haram is going to hit Kwara State, and therefore project for it.
You can report after the event. That's why it's a budget. Before, on, and after. It's a three-way reporting framework. So within the budget period, there is room for that. So emergencies, whatever contingencies is accommodated. But the important thing is that way we're talking about, surrendering to the process first, so that we do not use this issue of emergency, is this, is that, to subvert procedure, which obtains in other places. Surprisingly, by the time you get to the UN forces, why do Nigerian police and other security agencies win prizes outside Nigeria?
I was coming to that point.
Immediately you expose them to a beautiful process, they will excel, because they were never used to it.
Okay, Prof, you've
yes. If I may add,
yes.
You know, the primary responsibility of government is to protect life and property, and that is baseline of security. So security is expensive. You cannot over-quantify what you are putting into security. I want you to get that. Okay, the issue of logistics, transport, welfare, salaries, equipment, items, technology, You can't quantify it, and things are changing over the years. So there should be a deliberate policy to fund the Nigerian police force.
Okay, you're watching the Signature Show on AIT. Let me summarize what we discussed so far. We've looked at the police very briefly pre-independence, immediately after independence. We seem to have agreed that the police is not being very well properly looked after. We seem to have agreed that the police will require more funding. We seem to have agreed that the police will require the political will to place it as the frontline agency for internal security. Now, a new Inspector General of Police is being expected. As I said at the beginning of this program, he may in fact be announced before this program is broadcast. Who knows? The next stage of this conversation is going to hinge on the debate that there ought to be police reform. I'm told that there have been reforms and reports on police reforms almost 2 or 3 times before. But Nigerians still agitate that they need a police force they can depend on, they can trust, that meets everyday needs. And they think that it is reforming the police that will guarantee that kind of institution. AIG, if I asked you now to give me a document, I know that you are the chairman of a foundation that is also interested in security matters. Of course, that is so tough. If I requested you and your foundation to give me a document on reforming the police, which areas will you place emphasis?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I'm involved in CUG Foundation. And CUG Foundation is born out of a guided study for good governance. And good governance that has constitutionalism. Good governance that is transparent. Good governance that has human rights and that observes the rule of law. And security is the bedrock. You see, the new Police Act 2020, which has already been signed into law, has put a lot of reforms into it. You have the Inspector General of Police being appointed from the rank of AIG and above for a tenure of 4 years. That's an innovation. You have the investigative arm of the police, whereby prosecution will be done now by the lawyers and not by the sergeants and whoever, whatever. So things have to be done professionally. That is in the
new Police Act.
In the new Police Act. The problem is how is the authority operationalize it. So in any case, if you want me to give you a paper like CUG Foundation has been doing interfacing, in fact we are partnering with the Nigerian Police Force in the area of community policing, whereby we need to build trust, we need to build confidence, we need to bring police into the grassroots, to the doorsteps of the communities. In any case, in trying to professionalize the Nigerian Police Force, you must have to go into training and retraining. You have to go into training and retraining. You have to also reorient orientation of the Nigerian Police Force in terms of attitudinal changes. What stops a policeman, let me say a sergeant, coming to arrest a culprit and say, "Good morning, sir." Just me saying, "Good morning, sir," and you're under arrest, sir. There's nothing wrong about it. But you seldom see a policeman outside saying, "Sir, you're under arrest." We should have to bring this. And then we need to bring the society to have confidence in the police, to trust the police, to be able to inform the police that there is an infraction in this and this and this and that. That is the essence of the community policing, whereby you build interface between the society and then the police. And then the information flow will be there to really control crime within the community space. So the area of training, the area of welfare, increased funding, interagency corporations, all will be there. So that's what we are already doing as of now.
Prof, the AIG says to change the attitude, to improve the attitude of the policeman. and also to build the confidence of the citizen in the police force. That's a super tanker. For you to turn this super tanker, I mean, it looks like a tall order because, pardon me, I'm a journalist, my opinion doesn't count. But if you observe it, the policeman in Abuja, the policeman in Lagos, maybe the policeman in Kano and Port Harcourt seems to be a little bit conscious of public opinion, seems to be conscious of professional expectations. But for goodness sake, move out of these areas where all eyes are fixed and go to the rural communities where there's a police station, divisional police command, located somewhere in Ohafia, located inside an Imbise, or it's somewhere in Kutunkarifi, or whatever, Namada. The policeman becomes not just king, he's Lord. He makes the law, he interprets the law, he enforces the law whimsically. How can we change his attitude? Because he profits from that very big position of being the king of the space. How do we change his attitude?
Exactly. You see, this issue you raised is at the core of the police reforms, for which the CUG Foundation has been championing. I've done extensive work, extensive galvanizing of experts, retired, serving, and all that. The finest of professionals, consumers, and even operators and regulators in that sector. So that issue is strongly being addressed. But then, it also has to do with the center of the reform, which for me, I see as a situation where the police itself now has an opportunity to assert its own independence using 3 basic skills, highlighting it. And these skills are the technical skills, that is, what is special about a police person. Why is a policeman better than an ordinary security man, an ordinary member of a vigilante? That is a technical skill. Then the next one is the behavioral. You are dealing with human beings. You are interacting with persons and all that. How do you fit in those your own nuances into the basic epithets of what the society...
Your comportment and deportment.
Exactly. That is the behavioral component. Then the third one is the conceptual. That is, within the environment you're operating, how do you reflect the knowledge of the environment into what you are doing? That is, environmental intelligence. For instance, a policeman operating in a hospital should have some knowledge of how a hospital works and some basic environmental issues around medicine. He's not supposed to be a doctor, a pharmacist, but conceptually supposed to develop skill in that area. Therefore, within the current scenario we're operating, the IG have mentioned the ravaging impact of banditry, armed robbery, kidnappers, all these 419ers and all that. It means that apart from the external tooling, which you get by training and retraining, you also need to retool yourself. If that strong sense of independence that will directly curry the society to give you that respect, to surrender, because respect is not what you force out of anybody. No. It has to come from inside. You earn it. So the major challenge now is for the highest person in the police to think of that policeman in a remote village, perhaps where he's a lord. How do you install policies, programs, monitoring and evaluation that will reach everybody? That is at the heart of community policing, which the foundation is pursuing seriously. How does it affect it? And good enough, the Police Act 2020 have provided a very robust regulatory framework for that to happen. It is therefore incumbent on the leadership of the police to ensure that they do not suppress the provisions of those acts. that the provisions, the core provisions of that act are not suppressed, so that we don't have a difference between what you have in the law and what is being done, so that at the end somebody will tell you Nigerian factor, this factor. Though we observe that that police act excluded the responsibility. It did not balance power with authority with responsibility. It did not specify the punishment for the police officer directly who fails to carry out or who tries to subvert any provision of that act.
You know, I'm taking one word. I'm taking one word from this your summation. Independence. AIG. Can you arrest an offending governor?
That's where the political will comes in.
Can you arrest an offending political bigwig?
That's where the political will comes in. You see, when we talk about the governor and Mr. President, they have constitutional responsibility and protection. Okay? But be that as it may, in the issue of independence is the political will. You have to project the Nigerian police force. You have to remunerate the Nigerian police force. You have to assign dignity to the Nigerian police force. Whereby, like Professor Owoh has said, you decimate the Nigerian police force. You remove the intelligence arm, which is now the DSS or whatever, road safety, civil defense, all over, you keep on every day. In fact, there's another one, the Peace Corps. They keep on dismembering the Nigerian police force. You see, when we do that, the dignity reduces, the operational duties reduces. But when issues happen, you call the Nigerian police force as the lead agency that they are not doing this, they are not doing that. But you have dismembered them. So it is a political will, it's the orientation of government to fund the Nigerian police force, to project them to the status and the responsibility as the lead security agency of this country. So the idea of everything that happens, you say the military, it has militarized the populace. It has militarized the populace. The other day I was driving, and some of these miscreants had a roadblock, and my orderly called the man that, look, I'm a sergeant, remove the roadblock. He said, even the military has come here. Well, who is police? Okay, it's my attitude. So it depends on the orientation agency. It depends on the government to orient the public and then give the responsibility which the Nigerian police force deserves to them. Let every agency face their own core responsibility. The Nigerian Army has its own core responsibility, so the Air Force, so the Navy. And then so the police. Why wouldn't you allow the police do its own core responsibility?
Let me put the incoming Inspector General of Police on the spot this afternoon. An honorable member of the House of Representatives with his escort drives against the traffic because he thinks he's going to perform a national assignment. A distinguished senator zooms past the traffic light because he thinks he is on a very important national assignment. A big wig in society decides to throw a party and closes the road, and other road users are inconvenienced. Can the new inspector, I have not even finished. Somebody buys himself a new car, and because his father or his uncle is a general in the Nigerian army, he decides to put a siren on the car and drives along. Here in Abuja, in Maraba, one of the world's highest developing slum, a commissioner in one of the states twins his siren and drives through the traffic, and people scamper for safety. Can the new Inspector General of Police stop it? AIG, if he stops it, do you think that be the political backing?
What you should ask first is that all these people you have enumerated, do they have the immunity? Do they have the immunity over crime? Crime is crime. And if you commit a crime, the rule of law will take its course. You'll be arrested, you'll be prosecuted. It's there. The criminal code is there in our law books. And that's what we are saying, like the CUG Foundation. We are aiming for good governance that is constitutional, that is transparent. Okay? So if you are there and you don't show transparency, you don't rule by example, what do you want the other populace to do? You should be called to order. If you offend, if you break the traffic law, because it's a senator having immunity. The senator has no immunity. House of Rep member has no immunity. So you don't have a constitutional right to break the law. The law must take its course.
Prof, who will bail this cat?
Yes.
Can the new IG bail this cat?
Of course, yes. Because, you see, fundamentally, somebody had once called for a psychiatric test for certain level of public officers. And I think that the higher you go, the more disposed you should be, it is that you should go for psychiatric tests. Why am I saying so? Those in public offices have forgotten one thing, which is very fundamental, that they live on the charity of the rest of every other person. Free car, free this, escort that. Those are the expense of the populace, for which you should be eternally grateful. It doesn't make the president, the Senate president, the minister different from any other person other than to be eternally grateful that is being spoon-fed on what ordinarily he's supposed to pay for. Medical allowances, school fees for children and all that, because you are occupying a particular office. It is at the pleasure of the rest of the citizens. Therefore, they need to be eternally grateful, not pride, not exhibiting excessive tolo-tolo mentality. You see, because if you look at what happens in other jurisdictions, I was listening to the Zondo panel in South Africa on state capture. You see how they summon everybody, both past and present presidents, everybody extraying the activity, letting them know that they actually managed resources which was not created by them.
And doesn't
belong to them. So the mere fact that you're a senator, you should be more humble, actually, than even a non-senator with respect to law, because you are number one beneficiary. A lot of perquisites of office are the cost of additional taxation to the other person. So you actually need to be grateful to that groundnut seller on the road who stays on the sun from morning till night for you to be in an air-conditioned car from morning till night. That's the truth about it. Therefore, fundamentally, none of these officers have any right to ever conjure that mental picture or posture.
Can the new IG bring them to order?
Yes, he will do, because if you look at even the outgoing IG, he had tried to withdraw these escorts. He had made concrete efforts, dismantle roadblocks and all that each time. And in the past, we've seen very wonderful, excellent officers in the Nigerian police, as well as other forces, who have shown class. And part of our duty, the CUG Foundation, is also to recognize and appeal to them to still lend us some of those experiences, so that people can see that, this thing had once happened. It has once happened. So we're also having a monitoring mechanism to assess the performance of public officers, be it in the police, anywhere, to showcase those examples that should be a point of contact for even the serving ones.
Let me, I see my producer is raising one finger or two or three. I'm going to AIG.
Can I add something?
It's important, even in addition to what you are going to add. I also want you to give a last word to whoever will emerge as the new Inspector General of Police, because there's so much expectation. Nigerians are not, they want their police force that they can trust, that they can be proud of, that is functional. A police force that is driven by law, and not a service police force. Me, as an ordinary journalist in Nigeria, I feel bad when I see a well-dressed policeman carrying madam's handbag. I feel bad about it. I feel bad about seeing a politician addressing a trained Nigerian police officer. Hey, come here, go and buy me 2 bottles of beer. It is not force regimentation. There's a difference between a senior police officer ordering a junior police officer. That is order. But madam in the village of a politician says, oh yeah, Okon, sorry, what boy is it? Oh yeah, go market, go buy me pepper. And you look at it as an inspector. That's a sergeant.
You see, the Police Act 2020 has done a lot of job that will enhance the functions and the operationalism of the Nigerian police force. You now appoint an Inspector General of Police based on this Police Act for a period of 4 years. And he can only be removed by the assent of the National Assembly. So he has the confidence to do the job. You see, what happened is that the Inspector General of Police that has been serving, they are under the spell of being removed at any whims and caprice. So most of the operations is under propaganda to satisfy the powers that be. That's where the problem lies. That's why you say policemen perform well outside and they cannot perform well
in their own home.
In their own home. That's just the truth. So propaganda overrides professionalism because they want to impress the powers that be so that they cannot be. But now that the constitution, the law has guaranteed his tenure, then any Inspector General of Police
that fails, then is incompetent.
He's incompetent. But I think that the Nigerian police force, as I know it, the Inspector General of Police will not fail.
Thank you very much. AIG, do you respect geography in the appointment of the next IG?
Geography is a question of political setting, okay? Performance and the rank, because you cannot be an assistant inspector general of police and don't know your onions. So the new police act has stated that from the rank of assistant inspector general of police and DIGs will be appointed as inspector general of police. So those that falls within that rank, and if they can maintain seniority, it's wonderful.
Terrific. Are you bothered about geography?
No, I align myself with the AIG's position, but then it should be respected to balance the sentiments, though. But then, since the law have specified that from the rank of AIG, DIG, of course, all the AIGs, DIG, any one of them can be good, well and good, to be AIG. But, then, if there is any geographical setting that is outside that, it's just that it's a matter of law. So, but that's just the truth about it.
Okay. Well, those canvassing that we should respect geography, they say you have a point, but what is premium is giving us, this country, a police force that will service and serve the needs of all of us. In the past 40 minutes or thereabout, I've been conversing with Assistant Inspector General of Police retired Dr. Charles Ugomuoh, who also is the chairman of the CUG Foundation. I had also had Professor Godwin Owoh, an economist, a friend of the security circles. I always say, Prof, you are adept at security economy. Prof, I hope I'm right. We've been conversing on the next Inspector General of Police, police reform, and the kind of police Nigerians expect, and the challenges Nigerian police is facing, and how we can best begin to tackle them. We've also treated in brief, the impunity in society and how a new police force can help curb it. Don't forget that you can watch this program anytime you like, just by joining us, going back to www.Signaturetv.org. Let's meet Sunday next week. My name remains Ugomuoh. Good afternoon.